Friends, welcome back to the Messed Up Movies Podcast, a podcast celebrating movies and filmmakers that embrace the unhinged, the insane, the outrageous, and the off-kilter, the all-around kind of messed up fun you can't take your eyes off of. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, bobbling my words because my brain is swimming in the primordial ooze of psychosis and therapy. Joined as always by my friend, co-host, and gigantic low-rated babysitter.
No, Alex Dandino. Friends, let me ask you something. Do you like podcasts? Because if you do, we've got a lot more coming. This is the Messed Up Movies Podcast. Mondays, we have New Movie Mondays. Fridays, we have Filmmaker Fridays. It's all part of this wonderful package we have over here at the Misfit Parade. But key component here, and the way you'll get everything, is you sign up for that Patreon. The Patreon guarantees you get the exclusives that we do off the grid. Very cool. like our Tales from the Grift podcast and our new Messed Up Mirror pod, charting the dark, seedy, not too distant future, unfortunately, and actually surpassed in some cases.
It is bizarre to go back to our Black Mirror show for the miniseries.
Black Mirror episodes.
Shit, this was like 13 years ago. Oh my God. Yeah. You're like, things have gotten worse somehow. Like,
there is legitimately an episode we recently did where I was like, we've already done this technology. This technology exists, and we've already surpassed it, and that's terrible. Like,
Black Mirror is real. Black
Mirror
miniseries, Tales from the Crypt miniseries, exclusive movies, so much fun stuff. Great community over there. Find the Messed Up Movies Podcast Patreon. Find Misfit Parade on the YouTube. Subscribe there. We got shorts, reels. We're on all the socials, TikToks, Instagram reels, all that stuff. Also, make sure to go to misfitparade.com. Subscribe to our newsletter, The Parade Route there. You can keep up with our own productions. We are in the heated battle to finish Mr. Cream Jean's Hidey Hole. So go find us over there. All right. Alone in the Dark, Alex. So this movie, I absolutely love. It's one of those movies, it's hard to find. You can't even rent it anywhere. I had to watch it on YouTube last night to do this pod, right? This movie, it came out. I loved it. It's one of those oddities to me. It exists in this very weird, it's on a lot of horror people's IMDb page. And you go, what is that? This is one of those movies that has an iconic horror movie poster to me that a lot of us just saw that image of the legs and jeans, the house silhouetted in the dark in the distance, and that bloody axe dropping down that is primal, right? We all wanted that. I do think that poster belies the absolutely batshit journey of the movie once you press play. Would you like to start us off with the introduction to the key players and the synopsis?
Of course. Alone in the Dark is a 1982 slasher film, one of the first films released by a little small indie studio called Cinemas. You might know them for other small fares such as Lord of the Rings. Yep. It is the directorial debut. Jesus, it is early. It is the directorial debut of Jack Sholder, who is probably best known for directing Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, and
the only person that didn't think there was a gay subtext to that movie, to be clear, unless he's just really playing coy.
And one of Griffey and I's favorite movies with one of our favorite sequences of all time in it. He also directed Wishmaster 2, which has a, the lawyer scene is one of the greatest, like, what the hell's going on in this movie scenes of all time.
Someone had a Preacher subscription. No. Also, he did a movie, The Hidden, that I absolutely love. Like, he's made some
The Hidden's
good
too.
movies.
Yeah. He's made some good
Another
stuff.
weird one is one of his writing partners on this, who got credited as a writer, Robert Shea, who went on to be the New Line boss, who's all over the Nightmare on Elm Street docs. You've probably seen him in things. He has a lot of cameos in things. But yeah, Robert Shea, the New Line Cinema, Big Dog was in there.
Yeah, Robert Shea was the founder of New Line Cinema. The movie stars, and I can't believe I'm about to list out some of these actors, but here we go. The movie stars Jack Palance, Donald Pleasence, the most shocking one to me at the very top was Martin Landau, Dwight Schultz, Erland Van Lith, Lynn Shay, who, if you've watched the Insidious movies, which Griffey and I have, young Lynn Shay is in it. She's just as a receptionist. That was fun to see. Yeah. Like my favorite, like I Dwight Schultz is if you're a Star Trek person, Dwight Schultz is one of those guys. I'm a Next Generation guy, so I know who Dwight Schultz is.
There you go.
Uh, the movie is follows a psychiatrist family who are besieged by four escaped mental patients during a power blackout. This was actually based on um, this is based on a pitch. This is like something that actually happened. It didn't happen, but like the original pitch was actually um, it was basically the New York City blackout was cited as the inspiration, but this
Yeah.
was the original pitch for this movie was a group of insane criminals
Right.
escape from the mental hospital during the blackout in New York, and they're creating mayhem, and they get rounded up by the mob. That was the original idea for the movie. Was that the mafia would be the
Who
ones
wrote
to
that?
round them up?
Chrissy Moltisanti? What are we doing?
Listen, the original title for this film was "You Bark, I Bite," which of course is Chris
Yeah.
Moltisanti's.
Fucking Cleaver too. Yeah. Um, let's just start here. The
Love
the
it.
thing that everyone remembers about this movie is the cast, right? I'll
Yeah.
say this. What I love about this movie, you could say at I mean, I don't think this is a cutting remark to make about the movie. This film is half baked, right?
Yeah,
But
sure.
in a way that works, right? It is a kind of non-finished piece. What this is a series of ideas and vignettes
Hmm.
that kind of loosely come together to make a tale with probably the least climactic ending in a horror movie about slashers invading your homes, right? These guys get
Right.
fucking dropped and worked so easily that you actually begin to feel bad for the murderers, like criminals. You're like, so they aren't like monsters. They're just guys you can easily beat up and murder in your house. Neither here nor there. This movie, they had to know. They had to know it's half baked. So you know what they did? Let's go get some non-genre titans.
Hmm.
Let's stack this fucking cast. You know
Yeah.
what? None of these villains on their own is enough to carry us through a movie. How about we give you fucking five insane, crazy characters, right? And just jump to them vignette to vignette to vignette. Because I think if you
Hmm.
look at the killers, right? We've got Hawks, we've got Preacher, we got Fatty, and we got the Bleeder.
Yeah.
None of those characters had the visual iconography. None of them had the backstory, the
Just
methodology. But you know
the
what?
name, just the
Yeah,
names.
as like a fucking Voltron style team up, and then you throw in their fucking insane psychiatrist. You're
Hmm.
like, it works. There is enough insane shit going on in this movie. It works. It's like the president, our current president says, right? He's just going to do so much bullshit that he will wear us down and you can't pay attention and like dissect any one thing. That is the alone in the dark screenwriting strategy. Just bury us in insanity. And you know what? It works. This is a pretty this might be my favorite movie that just does not do the basic work of being a narrative
To
film.
okay, to use a less terrifying metaphor, this is what I'd say. This is like when somebody fucks up a dessert, like if you're like making a pie or something like that,
Yeah.
and it's not even you burn it, but it's just like it just does not come together. It looks
Yeah.
bad, something like that, and you
Collapsed a
decide,
little in the middle.
yeah, you decide to call it a whole new thing, like, oh, it's actually like a turnover type thing. Like I've done something else with this. It's that's what Alone in the Dark is. Alone in the Dark
Or
is
just
the
like frosting.
yeah. Alone in the Dark is the adaptation of like your fuck up. Not to say that the movie's a fuck up, but more just like you saying, the half baked notion of it is like, oh, this dessert, yeah, I put a bunch of frosting on top and now it's a cake. Like it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. It feels like you show up, you find some ingredients, you're like, these are pretty fucking good ingredients.
Yeah,
But you know
it's
what
good
I don't
stuff.
have? An oven. And you're
Yeah,
like, we gonna figure this out.
we'll
We're gonna
figure it
go
out.
day by day. Yeah, the sister is just a white lady who sees zombie ghosts and is thinks she can be a Rastafarian. You're like, wait, what? What is that thrown in the middle? Wait, there's a
Yeah, we're just
nuclear power plant? What are we? What? There's a law that says you only need to lock up the crazy people on the third floor, but they can walk around the lawn. What? And that's this movie. And you know what? I don't give a fuck. I think
I
that's
think
what
it's
they
fine.
do. If you're not going to, there are so many bad 80s horror movies that I still love, but you see the killer and you immediately just go, oh, all right.
I,
And
I
you're like, you know
take
what? They'll still do some killing. I'll get through it. this movie doesn't stick us with one guy who can't carry the load. This is
Mhm.
a real, many hands make for light work kind of a movie. And it's fucking smart. Why do
It's
more
good.
horror movies not do the roving gang of crazy people, right? Like, I immediately thought of Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. Like, none of those characters on their own probably carry the movie, but the Firefly family, fucking rad. Every room you bounce into, there's a new fucking different flavor on the same character.
Right,
That's
right.
what this did. That is, and a lot of movies come down to like, what's the great decision you made?
Mhm.
That's the one in this. Spread that
Sure.
fucking wealth. Give us a lot of different flavors
Right, right.
of horror movie, right? Like even Jack Palance, you could argue he's just in a war movie. He's not even a horror movie character. He's just
No.
doing a canon film, right? Just shooting
Right.
people with crossbows and guns and shit. But
Mhm.
in the context of these other insane people, the Jack Palance performance feels amazing and terrifying and psychotic.
I mean, yeah, within the context of this movie, it everything works. I think this is again, this movie has no business working the way it does. There's
Yes,
really
100%.
even from the jump, like when like the dream sequence we get at the very beginning of the movie, you're
Dude,
just like,
I
what
fucking
the
love
fuck
that.
is going on? Like, I
If I have a complaint, I needed more of that.
I actually agree with you 100%. Like I that opener, I was like, wait, and like so we got to that, and then yeah, we get through like half the movie. I'm like, are we never gonna get to see one of those again? Because that fucking ripped. Like, come on,
Yeah.
like the plate, and he's
Yeah.
about to get his
Here's
balls
what you
chopped
do.
off.
Take out every single thing that has to do with the Rastafarian sisters. Like, I'm into music now. And it's like, bitch, you're 30. Like, everyone's into music at 30. What are you fucking talking about? Yeah. Hey, like, take the sister out and have me. I want to see every one of these characters having a hallucination,
Yeah,
right? We
like
do
there's
all of
a
their fucking fantasies and like trauma induced. Like imagine these people are like the most broken, deranged serial killers and pedophiles, and just hanging around with Donald Pleasance has increased their psychosis. They're the fucking insane villains of the movie, and they have nightmares about hanging out with Donald Pleasance. That's the
I think
movie it could have been.
I think this is like the thing I love the most about Donald Pleasance in a movie.
He's the
Again,
fucking greatest dude.
and again, it's 1982. Like we're not under any spell of who Donald Pleasance is, what he provides. But like every time you see him in a movie, you're just like, oh, this is gonna be fucked up. Like you never see
Well,
like,
Loomis had like an air of respectability. If you watch a lot of other Donald Pleasance, like he ramps up the Looney Tune in a
oh no,
beautiful way.
he goes hard in a weird way. Like I mean, that's the thing I like about seeing Donald Pleasance in a movie is no matter what, whenever he pops in, I'm like, oh, okay, this is the movie we're watching. Like I
That guy
think
makes good choices. That's what I would
this
say as an
this
actor.
is the superpower of Alone in the Dark is like yes, Jack Palance and Martin Landau. These are actors who, by the way, like as they got older and as we as a culture like watched them age, they became more bizarre and odd, and we were all on board with it. I didn't have a problem. I never had a problem with like I saw Jack like the movie we all remember Jack Palance from our generation is City Slickers. Like
Yeah, to me, he's
that's
always curly. And also it's
yeah,
like
that's Curly.
it's hard. He's like one of those guys in my brain, like I can't imagine him under 70 years old, right? Like
Yeah, me
he's
neither.
just this is probably the youngest version of him I could ever conjure in my
Like
imagination.
he was yeah, like Jack Palance is Curly and then the mob boss who gets murdered in Batman by the Joker. Like
Yeah.
those are the things that I remember of Jack Palance. And then Martin Landau, I just remember his eyebrows and he could be in any movie and that's his eyebrows. Like
Yeah.
I just watched like a couple weeks ago just for the hell of it I was watching The Majestic and I was like, "Oh yeah, Martin Landau's in this
Oh,
movie."
dude, when he did the Lugosi in Ed Wood, Tim Burton's Ed Wood,
Yeah.
fucking great. Like Martin Landau is
Martin
great. And
Landau
that's the
is a
thing.
great actor.
To get two actors like that, well, three, because Donald Pleasance, I fucking
Donald
love.
Pleasance, yeah.
I hold him in such high esteem as an actor.
Hmm.
Like, just really makes interesting, bizarre choices. Always had a good nose for like strange material.
Yeah.
Where he could find those extra layers. And yeah, Dr. Loomis, like one of the greatest horror characters of all time, right? That
Yeah.
part, he's evil, right? And it's just fucking metal. You just love it. But yeah, those three to get three performers like that in one horror movie of this caliber is fucking incredible. And again,
Yeah.
I think everyone in the cast is pretty fucking game. I think they're following the lead of these titans. And we get a lot of really fun performances, right?
Mhm.
Even the sister's off kilter, and then we find out she's also not mentally well, and you're like, "Yep, that tracks.
Well,
Got
okay.
that."
Can I ask? The sister had like a nervous breakdown or something. Is that what it
So
is?
there's the thing where she's talking to her niece, right? And she's like, "Yeah, I used to see the monster under my bed." Blah blah blah. We get this kind of hint that like her brother became a therapist because he, loves his sister and wanted to help her out.
Right.
Whatever. Like, and there's a scene when the attack starts where she essentially sees baby Jason Voorhees pop out of a window, and she's like, "It's not there, is it? I can't handle it. I'm melting down." Because at first you're like, "Here we go, a Starbucks, Taylor Swift loving, Children of the Corn hat wearing, Nashville's not ready for me, basic white." And then when shit hits the fan, she can't fucking rise to the challenge. And then you're like, "Oh no, she's traumatized, right? Like she had like a
Right.
rougher
Right.
childhood." Then the movie lets on because she comes in like a Cyndi Lauper cosplay, and it's
Hmm.
like, "Oh, we're allowed to just make fun of her and not like her." And then it's like, "Oh, she has a horrifyingly tragic backstory, and she's having a real mental collapse and being murdered. This is fucking scary." But yeah, even
All
that,
not
like
great.
she does a great job in this movie, right? Like
Hmm.
everyone's pretty up for the challenge. The wife, right? The therapist wife was just kind of like orchestrating, making us feel like this is a believable reality as everyone's a dipshit and the kid's
Yeah.
like a little too smart and snappy, but she's like a great mom character. Deborah Headwell, who's just kind of like, all right, she's normal as shit, and she seems to like not be freaked out that the mailman is wearing a fucking cheap ass preacher suit. Okay. But again, I think it all congeals. And again, if you can't get us with the Michael Myers, the Jason Voorhees, the Freddy,
Yeah.
just fucking give us a bunch and we'll pick. It's like doing an anthology horror film that never cuts away from the main story. It's fucking great. All right, let's start here. This insane asylum is one of the fucking wildest locations for a horror film to happen.
I knew you were gonna bring
Not in
this
the
up.
way that most fucking asylums are insane.
Right.
The rules of this place are fucking batshit crazy. He just starts off talking to Lynn Shay. Come to find out, she's just like a paranoid schizophrenic who her problem is she just thinks she's a secretary. I was like, really? And her family institutionalized her? You couldn't just set up a desk by the front door and, she seems pretty innocuous and okay. She's not murdering people like everyone else in the movie. And then we go in and we meet Donald Pleasance. They're like, hey, we're going to warn you. He's a little cuckoo
A
bananas.
little weird. You're like,
It's like,
cool.
okay, he's a little cuckoo bananas. Um, that doesn't even begin to describe what we watch, right? Because our first image of him is that beautiful choice, right? Where he's like the chef and Martin Landau's like preaching fire and brimstone.
Yeah, yeah.
And all of a sudden, when he gets strung up like Terrifier style, right? And they're going to cut him down from the fucking balls down. Donald
Yeah.
Pleasance raises that blade up and he has like he kind of freezes and it's like he's summoning every bit
So
of strength
awesome.
from his toes up into that blade before he swings. That's how we meet him. Then we cut to his office. He's just like a little sweater guy and he's like, come here, bro. Get in here for one of these hugs. And he
Yeah.
starts laying out his like thesis on therapy. And I was like, this is what did you make of this fucking setup? It's ludicrous in the best way.
I mean, here's the thing. I can buy pretty much everything from these kinds of movies. I'll tell you the one where I was like, um, was when they're out, like they're out in the yard, which by the way, these guys are allowed to just walk around,
I
even though
say
they're
we
on
have electronic
the
fucking like
electrified fence third,
slamming shutter
but
doors.
outside time when they're outside and Martin Landau has lit a jack on fire. I'm like, how does he have access to fire? This guy's a
Well,
pyromaniac.
no, because he asked the therapist, he's like, can I have a match? He's like, the other doctor will let me have it. He's like, better go get him. And he's like, boom, lawyered him, right? Like, that's brilliant. He goes outside and he's like, hey, can I have a match? And Donald Pleasance goes, here you go. Just hands him
Yeah.
a whole fucking
Well,
match.
like those kinds of things, and then like, what did you think he was gonna do? And all of a sudden, he lights a jacket on fire and he's swinging it. This is a good hospital. These guys
Yeah.
really have their stuff together. They know what they're doing here.
Yeah, we go from the law says we don't want it to be a jail, right? We don't want our voyagers to feel jailed, right? Like the world is really the bad thing. And these men just, because that's kind of his theory on the whole thing, right?
Yeah,
They're better off in here. The real world is scarier. And
yeah,
they wouldn't survive, man. They couldn't make it out there. So we're shielding the real world. I was like, cool. Any way you cut this therapy bullshit, there's a law that says, hey man, I want that 400-pound fucking pedo murderer
Yeah, in
caged
jail.
up.
Yeah.
And they're like, I get he's a Voyager and all that shit. Cage his ass up. And also I was like, they're just on the second floor of like a wood fucking paneled hardwood floor. Like they can just dig their way out. They just gotta fit him through two trusses and they could fucking get out of this
I'll get
hospital.
when your therapist is treating the insane asylum like an escape room for like people who like are just there
Yeah.
for on vacation. Bad side. Not great.
Well, it's
Like
just like they never thought to just like go jump that dude and get the button. Like it's it's one of those things the movie asks you to accept, right?
it is low
And
stakes
because of
security.
Donald Pleasence, we do. Because we just see him fucking ripping his fucking peace pipe and essentially just making up treatments for a lady who's like, I feel like I'm turning to porcelain and my intestines are fucking strangling me. And he's like, do this fucking mascot move. Let's get weird. And she's like, boom, nailed it. And we're like, all right, it is
The
unorthodox, but he's making
I
progress.
think that's the thing is I think yeah, so this is 82.
Yeah.
It's not that we aren't it's not like Psycho where we've never heard of psychotherapy or
Yeah.
psychiatry or anything like that. But
He'd
it is
already played a therapist in a horror movie, right?
I
This is
know.
after
He's like
Halloween.
this is after Halloween, and I think this is like the thing that fucking boggles my mind about Donald Pleasance in this movie is you're just like, man, no wonder fucking Michael Myers escapes and kills people constantly. I'm like, this is probably the hospital he's at, and he literally probably just comes and goes and he pleases. Like,
Yeah. This
yes,
is what
he's
there's a
exercised
Loomis screaming
demons.
about this doctor. He's like, why are they out? And he's like, well, they're Michael's a Voyager, bro. And he's like, nah.
Oh my god. Okay,
Like these are
wait.
two twin brothers that have just taken very different paths.
Okay, wait. Can we actually place?
Is this a shared universe?
Can we place Joe Bane, Dr. Loomis, in the same universe as brothers?
Oh, I'm sure. And he's just like,
Oh
yeah,
my
my
god,
brother is a
yes.
bit of a cunt. He's not a Voyager. He's not expanding his mind with hashish. And it's just like, yeah, for sure. But that's, I mean, you can see the two. And that's
I
why Loomis is so crazy. He's like,
That's why Loomis
I've
is
seen
so
evil
crazy.
before.
He's like, I
Those
have
dark,
seen
beady
you.
eyes of Michael Myers. I saw them in the womb from my twin brother,
What does your twin brother do?
Dr. Leo Brain. Leo Bane. Leo
he's
Bane also sounds like a very fake name. That's like Loomis is like, Mom, Dad, you got to get him to change his name. It's ruining my reputation at medical school. And he's like, Leo Bane of my brother Dr. Loomis's existence. Okay. Yeah, no, these two, but it's so fun to like pair those two
choice.
together.
Yeah.
It's like this guy played two therapists and could not have approached his research in any stranger of
I
directions. Like they are
I
polar opposites.
legitimately love the idea that these are brothers and like he's like, oh, my brother's a psychopath. He lets these idiots out whenever he wants. Oh,
And he's like,
okay.
my brother's the psycho. He's a tool of that mean world out there. Electric button. It's like, okay. But it's fucking wild. But in the place, like Jack Palance just has incredible presence in this.
Very good.
Like that scene where he like tries to force himself to wave. Like he
Oh
doesn't
my
know what
god,
to do
dude.
as Potter's leaving. It's fucking incredible. But that scene where you're like, this is another just one of those weird asylum things. You're like, so you have all of them share one room.
Hmm.
You line all their beds up like they're at the fucking scariest summer camp ever.
Hmm.
And you have Hawks who's just like, he killed the doctor. He wants to kill us. We'll kill him. And you hear one of them, yeah, then the fucking preacher's like, yeah, here's a Bible verse. And you hear Fatty like, when? And it's like, oh, now they're crazy, just like rubbing and bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, this is pretty intense. This is pretty scary, right? And you see it kind of building to when the power goes out and he reaches for that window. Unsure, like he doesn't know what's happening. They sense that the power's out. They also have this weird moment where Preach is like, I made the power go out. And then the news later's like, it was an act of sabotage or God. And you're like, wait, is this whole town fucking insane? What is happening here? When the nuclear power plant's going to go 3 Mile Island on them, the parents and sister are in jail for being at a protest. This movie's fucking insane. Um, but when they get
So,
out and they hunt down Brent Jennings
mhm.
and Fatty lifts him up over his head, which again, that one and the girl, I'm pretty sure he did that in real life. Like both of those were real, not fake stunts. The girl for sure, when he strangled the babysitter, He
Hmm.
literally just held her ass up. There was no help from effects, right? And if
Right.
you watch it, I rolled it back a couple times. It looks like he's actually like power cleaning Brent Jennings over his head. And when he banes his ass and snaps him in half
Right.
and just leaves his folded up body, they do a great job of in this kind of insane cartoon world, really establishing how fucking horrifying it would be to see these four guys walk out of an asylum marching right towards your car or house.
Yeah. No, I mean the dread that looms. It's pretty impressive work. Like I think this is like it's one of the things that really works about them. Again, there's like lots of these little pieces that shouldn't add up that
Mm.
totally work. Like it's bizarre how well it goes, in a lot of respects. But that that dude, that power lift of the orderly from Erlen Van Lith, like holy shit.
I mean, he's fucking huge. Watch him try to get in the car in the scene they escape.
Yeah.
You're like, he is a fucking massive
That
human being.
that power lift is again, that was the one I was like that I agree. I watched it one more time to see if they're like because sometimes when they're older when they didn't scrub the footage like they do now you can see the wires. No, he
Mhm.
just fucking did it, I think.
I think he chucked
Like
his ass up there, and that's how he became Dynamo in The Running Man, right? Oh, it's fucking great. But I
yeah.
love that. But again, I think that everything up to that point in the movie is working really well for me.
Mhm.
It does kind of take a bit of a fucking cold dump in the middle of the movie where we're just like in the house for too long. They get out like on that night, right? They get out to a riot, which is kind of a great scene. So you're like, they're looking around and they're like, everything we thought was true. Like their craziness is being answered because the power goes out and rioting breaks out in this small town everywhere.
Yeah.
This part's all great, right? The bleeder kills someone in the lamest. The breeder in that goalie mask with that little fucking lawn attachment that we use to scrape up weeds is one of the most pathetic scenes I've seen in a horror movie. And you start going, oh, God.
I
No,
mean,
no.
we'll get to this, but only to be outdone by the reveal is like the bleeder being the lamest. Like you could have just done the
Well,
three.
right. And it's just like, oh my God. And then it's like, but the story does this bad decision, right? Which is
Mhm.
we reset the night. The doctor knows these guys are out. It's the next morning. We have a whole other day where the mom's like, oh, all the fucking murderers got out of my husband's office. Okay, I will go to a protest and leave my daughter to come home from school. It's like, what? There's lunatics everywhere. There's riots. Why are you leaving your kid? Why are we adding 24 hours to this instead of just making it they get there that night? They have a car. That would be better. So they add this like big gap to breathe that you start being like, anytime those guys aren't on screen, it doesn't work. Watching them run the mailman down, great. Martin
Yeah.
Landau at the door, great. And
Mhm.
then it feels like we do like 30 minutes of dog shit, right? We're then there to say like the lamest dinner. She meets a guy in jail. When he's in that house, you're like, there is not a person on earth. This movie actually has two kind of insane like little twists here. There is no one on earth that I think didn't see one of them and then didn't think the other one was happening. All of us thought when Leo got out of that car, Leo was the insane patient who took over the asylum, right? The inmates are running the asylum.
Right.
I don't think, did anyone think when he got out of that car, he was about to meet like a lame, not even on screen death, really? Like he wasn't getting like a heroic final month. No one else but me thought that Leo 100% was going to be like, I orchestrated all of this. That's why when I tell Martin Landau I'm going to chop him in half, he has nightmares about it because I'm the fucking craziest. No one thought him and his secretary were insane people. Fine. Also, no one on earth said, hey, where's the bleeder? And who's this goddamn Giacomo we got running around the middle of this fucking house lumberjacking?
Yeah.
Right? And again, that is a classic. We talk about this a lot. That's horror movie cheating, right? He's afraid to show his face to strangers, but goes to jail, has the ability to riz up the guy's wife and his sister. There's other
Right,
inmates
right.
in there. Goes, meets a detective, the daughter. He's having family dinner. He's running around helping in the fight. He's killing his own friends, only to then be like, ha ha, it's me. We're like, we know, we're just confused why.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think what's again, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, sometimes, especially in these kinds of movies, it's like they thought of the reveal before they got to the actual writing of the reveal.
Yeah.
So they think about the image, you're like, oh shit, you know what'd be sweet?
Oh yeah.
If like all of a sudden blood's like trickling down
Hmm.
the girl's face, reveal, and they're like, holy shit, that is fucking brilliant. Write that thing. And
Oh,
then,
dude, you're a writer. That happens all the time. You just get
well,
that image and you're like, yeah. And then
well
it's
yeah,
like, oh,
that's
it's hard to get there.
right. You're right. You're writing yourself into a corner, like
Yes.
because you like literally you want like you just want that one piece of iconography and like getting there is so stupid.
We have no idea because when they called him the bleeder, because they
Mhm,
do this hinting at like, oh my God, it's the bleeder, the bleeder, the bleeder. Like
mhm.
he's like some big bad serial killer we're supposed to know about. Here's what we know about him by the end of the movie. He killed someone in a lame hockey mask with a weed pulling trowel,
Mhm,
right? Like a little three claw, ha! And then ran away because he got scared and said they're bleeding,
mhm.
is able to riz up a whole fucking family and like be a normal guy, only then to get a hug. Wait, is it the hug that triggers his bleeding? Is he the bleeder because they bleed and he bleeds them out, or because he
I
gets
think it's
nosebleeds when he touches a woman? Like,
I think he gets nosebleeds when he gets an erection, and that's like part of the
yeah,
whole
I mean,
thing.
hey man, we've all been there. It's just one of those. It's so
We've all been
piss
there.
poorly executed. And
Yeah.
again, this goes back to the brilliance of the movie. They had a guy they wanted to call the bleeder. They wanted a gotcha reveal that no one on earth was fucking shocked by. It's not a reveal if we all know. It's just the story,
It's
right?
just the movie as it
Or I mean, it's
continues
a
to
reveal, but
transpire.
you revealed it to us the moment he was in the jail cell, right? Like, why are they adding another character in the middle of this? Oh, right. But
Okay.
this, if that whole movie had only been about the bleeder,
Hmm.
and him like trying to play cat and mouse while he's also in the house.
Hmm.
We're not talking about this movie all these years later. This movie's an absolute forgotten pile of trash because you don't have Pleasance, Landau,
Yeah, yeah. Sure.
you know,
Hmm.
Palance. All those guys aren't in it. It's just like this. Well, that was a really like not as clever as it thought movie. You can fuck up the bleeder. Like
Yeah,
to me, that's the part where I was like, this fucking sucks. Like
yeah,
that's not a good thing at the end. And also Leo not just being in on it and orchestrating and him and Landau just doing beautiful fucking soliloquies as we have this like home invasion. That's where
yeah.
the movie failed me. But it does great at so many other weird shit, like just taking the therapist to a punk show for no reason and just showing us a whole song because that's fucking fun. Um, I thought what we do here is we kind of come to the end and maybe a better way to dissect some of this. Let's rank the killers.
Okay.
And you can add the therapist because Leo should have been in it. And I think we can say through neglect, he's
Hmm.
probably killed a patient or five.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say five. My God, that's so. Those are rookie numbers. You got to get those. You got to bump those
Rook
numbers up.
numbers, yeah. All
Got to get
right,
those
so
numbers
what
up.
would you have if we were ranking these? I
One to
think to
five or
me,
five
the
to one.
lamest of the five, like psychotic characters, is the bleeder.
Bleeder. One hundred
The bleeder
percent bottom.
sucks.
Absolutely.
There's no methodology to the bleeder. The kill we see is beyond pathetic,
Hmm.
right? Like that is one of the lamest. Like that's one of those movies where you're on set and they're like, "Holy shit, dude, this is gonna be a franchise. Like this is gonna be a thing," and you're like, "They so like that." I mean, they're at a riot. They could have picked a weapon from anywhere. Apparently, the small town Play It Again Sports has a gardening section. That was pathetic. The fact that his psychosis just conveniently disappeared for the plot,
It's
it's
selective.
awful.
It's plots. It's
It's
plot
awful.
psychosis. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
great.
it's so bad. He's the worst.
He's the worst.
I think then I would put this is where I'd put Dr. Leo is number four
I actually would too. Yeah.
because he should have been way higher, could have been number one, but
Hmm.
he's not actually one of them. He doesn't get that great horror movie moment
Yeah.
that kind of like, he's orchestrating, he's part of it.
He's
He's a Voyager
not like
creator.
us. Not like us. Just like Kendrick said.
Yeah, he not like us. He not like us. But that song's about Drake and Fatty, apparently.
So that song's about Drake and Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
That act
God,
written by
who's
that's
taken more L's over the last couple months? Is it Drake or Amelia Perez in total? I don't know. There's just L's flying everywhere.
Actually,
Actually, by the time the audience hears this, the Oscars may have happened. And I have a sneaking, crushing suspicion Amelia Perez is getting fucking blanked. So this is a time traveler. I think the 13 nominations to 0 wins is in play. And if that's on my gambling app, I'm hitting it. And that'll be a very memorable Oscar moment, but neither here nor there. Um, so yeah, I
I'm
think
just
the
saying,
fact that Leo, is awesome as he is, his great, ideas about it, the way he plays with the other inmates, I think Dr. Leo is great.
mhm.
He just
I mean,
doesn't get the moment.
I think Dr. Leo's great. Again, his brother, Dr. Loomis, and Kendrick Lamar wrote just a great diss track, and that's why they won the Grammy.
I
And
agree.
but again, I agree. Like he doesn't have quite he doesn't have like the reason the top
If he
three are the
was like
top.
us, as Kendrick said, and he dropped a fucking track on him right there and was part of the gang, number
Yeah,
one to me, easy.
yeah, I agree. But Dr. Leo Bain feels like the kind of guy who's going to sue the Recording Academy. So to be
Oh,
honest with you, yeah,
yeah.
number four.
Don't start none and then fucking lawyer up.
Yeah,
Cowardly Dr. Leo. You know who would never? Dr. Loomis.
Dr.
You
Loomis.
fucking puss. You
He'd
talk
fucking
about the
take it.
streets, but you're using the sidewalk. You fucking puss.
I
Unbelievable.
love that we're doing this.
Yeah.
I,
We're not part of the culture, but we are observers.
I observe, and I know. I I know what a Kendrick Drake beef looks like, and it's Loomis versus Bane for sure.
If any two guys know about beef, it's us. It's just the high caloric kind. Number 3, I'm going Hawks. Jack Palance, I love. That final scene with him, that mailman scene when he's driving, the scene when they first meet Potter and it looks like he's gonna like point a finger gun at him, but like forces a wave. Jack Palance is terrifying. His presence is great. The voice is great. He's almost essentially MIA during the most important chunk of the movie. And then at the end, he just brains a guy at a punk show. And he meets another insane lady that seems to simulate stroking his gun off. And the movie just ends inexplicably. I'm like, we're not going to explore any of this.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
not exploring that psychosexual stuff.
So as much as I love what Palance is bringing, and I think he does add those extra layers of gravitas this movie needs to overcome its
Mhm.
shortcomings,
Okay,
Hawks himself is just very uninteresting as a character. Even the
interesting.
moment when he sees the therapist on the TV and he's like, like he can't tell what's real and leaves. Great scene. Not great enough to beat the top 2 to me.
Interesting. Okay. I actually am gonna say I'm gonna say Fatty for number three. And here's why.
Oh, come on.
Here's why.
Okay.
One, I'm not Cheetos. I don't like that, for one.
We're not like ranking like
Yeah,
whose crimes are we most like
first off, I'm
condoning?
allowed to have my reasons. I'm not allowed to have my reasons, all right? So relax. All right. No,
That's not how opinions work.
that's not how opinions are.
Yeah. No.
How do you know how opinions are? Opinion, my opinion. No. I actually, but I mean, like, straight up deadlifting an orderly is pretty cool. But I do think that he just doesn't have as interesting an arc, as interesting, even though, look, I understand that Hawks is like gone for a
Yeah.
huge chunk of this movie.
He's like doing the Joe
But
Biden where he's just like, is it dark? And he's just like
hey, I'm
wandering
around.
Hey,
Yeah, I'm here.
hey,
Yeah, you can see.
hey,
I,
hey,
'Cause
hey.
I think
Can
I
we
knew
just,
between two
okay,
and
that's the
three.
second political thing I've said on the show. I'm not trying to make this political. Here's my one political thing that I just want to put on wax for the universe. How about this? If you're over 55, you're fucking fired from the government. You can't do it anymore. You're not going to live long enough to deal with your fucking policies. You're out. I'm sick of old motherfuckers ruining everything. Like Jack Palance's arc in this. Boom.
I-
Just kidding. I
Well
love
done.
Jack Palance.
I look. I have a feeling. Look, I had a feeling
I'm an oldest.
two and three would be interchangeable because I think you and I have the same number
Oh,
one.
I think it's an arguable
Yeah,
one. But yeah.
we have.
Wait, okay,
So
here would be my
I knew
argument
two and
to
three would be
you.
interchangeable. Go ahead.
Okay, so with Fatty, right? We've got the
Mhm.
origami. I think just visually, there's always something about a baby Huey character, right? Just a giant childlike person who can kind of switch between that childlike innocence
Yeah,
and violent murders, right? He
sure.
fucking snaps the orderly, right?
Mhm.
He gets the scene, one of the fucking
The
darkest
choke
moments in
out.
this movie. Well, yeah, he chokes the babysitter, which is great.
Yeah.
But not even that. His best like three scenes are just better than Palance's. The scene when he's in the house and he's like, "Your mom asked me to babysit you," and we know this guy is a giant pedophile murderer, and he's with
Hmm.
that little girl. And my wife Amy even said she's like, "Oh, she'll be fine. She's too sassy for him." And I was like, "That's cool movie brain thinking. In real life, this is like a horrifying news story
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
about to hear." So he is like, "Let's go to your room." She's like, "No, I want to drink chug milk." And he's like, "Let's go to your room. I'll show you how to make stuff out of origami." And you're like, "Dear God, dear God." We cut out of there with no resolution. The babysitter comes in, opens the door. That
Hmm.
girl's balled up on the bed, looking very much like the orderly. And we as an audience go, "Oh my fucking God, did he just mangle that girl? And that's her dead body there." And then that scene is punctuated. The babysitter's got her titties out. She's like, "Oh, I got 2 hours. I'm going to try to suck my boyfriend off in my employer's bed." Love that move. And then all of a sudden, like we're attacked, right? We see Martin
Yeah.
Landau under the bed with the knife, which is fucking great. That's like a real teenage nightmare. Like you're getting horny on a bed and a priest with a knife is coming from. That's just great. And then Fatty strangles her.
Yeah, yeah.
And we find out mercifully that the kid was not killed by the giant pedophile. But to
Hmm.
me, it's like take each of their top five best moments in the movie. I mean, Fatty's got 4 out of the 5.
No, no, I get why.
Sure.
But again, it's just here's the thing. Yes, I've already stated I do not like the pedo thing does not do it for me. I think for me though,
I, I don't like the way you phrase that because it implies that it is for me.
it's
I also
no.
am
Well,
very
what I'm no,
anti-pedo.
no, what I'm going to say is the qualifier for that is like, yes, this show, by the way, generally like this show is
Not
staunchly
generally.
anti,
You could fucking
staunchly
carve
anti
that
pedo.
into marble and bring it
Yeah,
down from the
that is
mountaintop.
one
We
of the
hate them.
commandments of this
Yeah.
show.
We
We hate them.
fucking hate them and they're gross.
No, no.
Of
What
all
I'd
the crimes
say,
we condone on this show, that ain't one of them.
no, absolutely not.
Yuck.
What I'd say is that I expect I expect that kind of creep like the things that he does in this movie are not surprising to me given the hit
Sure.
like given we know what the character is. So like it's
You've
not a
seen it
bad
before.
performance.
Yeah, I
I know
got
it's
you.
going to happen though. I think
Okay.
that's really where it comes down to like but
Yes.
again,
I'll give you that.
the 2 and 3 are sort of interchangeable. I honestly like look, I'm just going to skip. I honestly just like Jack Palance's performance more. So
Sure.
I like him as number 2. That's
He
all.
he he has a just fucking like he is volcanic
He's great.
without having to erupt hardly ever. It's just he
Mhm.
fucking looks scary to be in a room with.
Sure.
Intense, dude. Um, Clearly number one,
Number
not even
1.
close.
I mean
Martin
it's
Landau is
by like
preach.
a billion.
He
Yeah.
fucking annihilates this film. The fucking constant like babbling about fucking Bible verses. The
He's
opening in Mom's Diner is my favorite scene in the movie. That scene where he's just like laughing at the mailman, right? Like he's just got these like unkempt eyebrows, that cackle. He's got that
yeah.
Defoe kind of gargoyle-ish features that are perfect for this kind of movie. And the scene when he rolls up in the mailman's hat and he's like, be rest assured, I will be back. Like he can still like close enough, still pretend he's like in front of his like parishioners.
Yeah.
He's fucking horrifying. He's funny. He's there at the best moments. He's there when they fucking break the guy in half. Like he starts the attack on the orderly. Um, he fucking kills. He's the one who kills Leo, right? Like
Yeah.
he's fucking awesome. The dragging the kid under the bed, the knives trying to get the little titties and shit when the teenagers are getting horny. Like again, I cannot understate the image of a murderous priest is something we at Misfit Parade absolutely love.
Yeah.
But the idea that kids are just committing sin in a marital bed and a priest pops out of the bed, that was just a great fucking choice. Like, what a gag.
Yeah.
Loved it. And again, I just think Martin Landau
He's
is the man.
he's
He's the
so
man.
good.
He
He's
is
so
he's the
good.
perfect combination of really scary and like Looney Tunes energy that this movie captures. Like it's a Goldilocks where you're like some of them it's like this part's good, but like he is right. He's the dead center heart of this film.
Yeah. He's he's just so good. Like he is so I mean, and I think like watching this too, because I see Martin Landau and so as an older man in so many movies. Like I fucking love him in Rounders. I think he's such a phenomenal actor. He just has such this great understated quality to him. And it's interesting too because like this movie, Mission Impossible, like his career as a young man was so like marked by such like sort of
Oh my God.
outlandish
Him
things.
and Palance, like the breadth of their work. And back in the day when you
Unbelievable.
were like a contract actor for like the different
Mhm.
studios, you would do so many different kinds of things, right? Like you were working. It wasn't like taking years off and like vanity project this and that. You were fucking clocking in, man. So those guys just have a ton of credits. Alex, what's the most messed up moment in Alone in the Dark?
Ironically, I think it comes from the one. Well, you know what? No, it's the whole sequence. It's the boyfriend getting pulled under the bed,
That's
the
right.
knife coming up through the bed, and then that babysitter getting choked at by Fatty.
The
That
babysitter
was,
sees that the parents are out doing a civic good and protesting nuclear power, and she's like, well, I'm
I'm gonna
about to
bang
melt
out.
down all over my boyfriend's face on your bed. And God willing, there will not be a fucking murder preacher under the bed. Not so lucky. Only to escape him and then run into the arms of a 400-pound pedophile who snaps her neck and
Boy, oh
chokes her
boy.
out.
Them's the
That
breaks,
that
you
is a
know?
wild scene. I will say, I think the wildest scene also involves our character Fatty. The idea of this massive baby Huey like character being alone in the house with the child because the parents suck at parenting. Maybe in times of trauma you should be at home with your kid. Him just being alone with her, trying to lure her up to her room, and that scene deciding to cut, only for us to the next time we see that girl, see her balled up, unmoving in her bed, as if we are just left to imagine that he had murdered her in a horrifying way, only to find out the movie just did that to get, a rise out of us, and haha, she was napping and napped through the whole murder and bang sesh of the babysitter. That leaves a lot of questions to be answered. That's a fucked up thing to see in a movie.
Yeah, that was gross. And I'm glad she did not die.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I love this ride. I love this cast. It's one of those bizarre, you'll see it and you're like, oh, okay. The poster draws you in. The movie takes you on a fucking bananas ride. I love these kind of movies. I love when we get to go back and talk about it. That's it for Alone in the Dark. We hope you guys are enjoying the March Madness month. Emphasis on sweaty madmen, right? That's what we're kind of looking at. Sweaty madmen tearing our lives asunder. So make sure to go to the Messed Up Movies Podcast Patreon, support the show there, get more good stuff there. Go to misfitparade.com, subscribe to the newsletter there. Misfit Parade YouTube, subscribe there to see video versions of these podcast shorts, clips, all the good stuff, content we're doing just for YouTube. Make sure you follow us on all the socials. We're there, you're there. Messed Up Movies or Misfit Parade, more specifically. You'll find us there. 5-star ratings and reviews. Let a friend know more than anything. Thanks for your time.
Bye, guys.